Despite being their most valuable player and top goal scorer, things are a little bit frosty for Mauro Icardi at Inter Milan. He's been removed as their club captain, and his knee injury seems to be a cover-up for something a little more sinister happening inside the walls of the San Siro. So with such drama surrounding the player, there is of course speculation that he'll be willing to move in the summer, which has alerted some of Europe's biggest clubs to his availability. But where will he end up going? Well, that's what I'm here to discuss today, with 3 potential destinations for Mauro Icardi in the summer. But before we do that, let's get a quick update on what exactly the situation is surrounding Mauro Icardi from our Italian football expert Francesco.
Okay, the main problem between Icardi is that he doesn't have a relationship with his teammates, and that was the main reason why the club decided to took away his captaincy. And there wasn't an easy choice and decision for the club. So I think that if they made this decision was the case because it wasn't possible anymore to have him as a captain. So just to make sure that this is not related to his contract situation, so this is another thing. He was never considered as a captain from his teammates. And we don't really know what happened in the dressing room, and that's for sure something that will come up in the next weeks probably. But we know that there was a good relationship between him and some parts of the group of his teammates. For sure with the Croatians, like Perisic, Brozovic, they didn't like each other. Just to let you know, just an example, they don't even follow them on Instagram, so they don't follow each other on Instagram. So I think that's already a fact. And another thing is that his wife, for sure, he's part of a show in Italy, in TV, and she started to say many things about Perisic, his teammates, that he doesn't get as many balls as should have in occasions, assists during a game. So she would prefer for him more assists than a new contract, for example. And that was something that really touched the team and touched the humor of the locker room, the dressing room. So I think that from this moment on, something broke between him and the team.
So why does Icardi stick with his agent? Surely he could just talk to her and tell her to maybe not cause so much trouble within the dressing room, right?
The main reason why the team didn't trust him anymore is because he didn't step away from the words of his wife. So we saw in the also other cases that wives or brothers or part of the family say something about a player, but many times a player distances himself from what these people are saying, you know. And in this case, it didn't happen. Icardi always said, and with my wife, even on social media, always said she's gonna be my agent until I play. So he never distanced himself from his wife, and that's very likely part of the reason why they decided to do so with him.
So let's look forward and away from all the trouble into what Mauro Icardi can bring to his potential new side. That's because, let's be honest, these big European clubs are going to want to know what they're spending millions and millions of pounds on.
I will start with weaknesses, because I think that we are seeing right now with what's going on that his weaknesses are psychological, basically. So he's not a type of player that is not a captain. Okay, let's put it this way. And we know that he's not a captain now. And he doesn't bring maybe the commitment that many football fans, also maybe managers want. He's not the kind of player, as I said before, that helps the team to play better. He's a very good goal machine, as I said, and I think that's his main strength. He scores thousands of goals. He can do a lot of things, and he scores goals in any way. So I think that's his strength, and as I said, his weaknesses for sure are not technically, but psychologically.
Okay, so when we mention an out-and-out goal scorer, there are plenty of clubs in Europe who could really do with one. None other than Real Madrid. With their season pretty much over by the beginning of March, it's not hard to pinpoint the exact moment where it all started to go wrong for Los Blancos. It was last summer when they got rid of Cristiano Ronaldo and they failed to replace him. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if you get rid of the guy who's bringing your team 50 plus goals every single season, that you're going to be a little less successful after he leaves. With Karim Benzema failing to step out of Ronaldo's shadow even after he's left the club, Gareth Bale looking less interested than a child with a plate of vegetables in front of him, and all the hopes resting on the 18-year-old shoulders of Vinicius Jr., Madrid definitely need Icardi. As we heard before from Francesco, Icardi's not exactly going to help much with the build-up of the play, but he is going to be in the middle to stick the ball in the back of the net, and that's been a major problem for Real Madrid this season. He does seem like the perfect fit, but I'm not saying that one signing is going to completely rectify all of Real Madrid's worries. Alongside the signing of Icardi, they may have to bring in another midfielder and potentially another defender as well. But spending around 100 million on the Argentinian striker will go some way to solving a few of these problems. So would he actually join Real Madrid? Well, in all honesty, yeah, I think he would. He wouldn't go back to Barcelona. I say back because he was actually there as a youth player, but before leaving for Sampdoria, he said that they really didn't fit his style of play and the characteristics of Italian football fitted him better at the time. For this, I don't see it happening, and Real don't even play the same way Barcelona do, so I could definitely see him going to the Bernabeu. Plus, they're only one of the few sides that will be able to afford not only his huge wage, but also the massive price tag that's on his head as well. Them and two other clubs who conveniently are the two other clubs on this list, so let's start with one of them. One of them is definitely Chelsea. Much like Real Madrid, Chelsea are in desperate need of a striker. And even if Gonzalo Higuain's loan does produce a few goals, he's not necessarily going to be in the best of shape within the next few years. Now, that's no slight on him, but he is in his early 30s. Before him, there has been a massive gap left from Diego Costa. Alvaro Morata and Olivier Giroud have both failed to fill this by scoring any consistent amount of goals, and for some reason, Michy Batshuayi keeps getting loaned out and just can't get a look into the Chelsea first team. As mentioned before, Higuain is 31 years old at the moment, and with the way that he kind of looks after himself, I doubt that he's going to be able to prolong his career late into his 30s. That's no slight on him, as I've said, but really only the likes of Ronaldo and a few others can keep playing at the top level until the time they're 35 or 36, especially in such a demanding position. This way, Icardi can come in and pretty much enjoy the prime years of his career whilst at Chelsea. The thing is with someone like Icardi is that yes, he's got a bit of an ego, but he's also got massive self-confidence and belief that he can find the back of the net, and this is actually something that Chelsea have been struggling with. Whenever they've been hammered this season, the same comments have been made about their team, that they're lacking spine, they're lacking effort, and they're lacking this sort of bullishness that the likes of Drogba, Lampard and Terry used to bring to the club. If Icardi comes in and the rest of the players see that they've got a self-confident, motivated, aggressive forward who is trying his best for the team, well, it's only going to light the fire for the rest of them. Over the years, Chelsea have been no stranger to a massive ego or two, and with Roman Abramovich at the helm, they've been able to channel that energy and win a hell of a load of titles in the last 10 to 15 years, so I can see Icardi fitting in really well. We've just mentioned Abramovich there, and well, it's him who's going to be paying for Icardi, and he's definitely got the money for it. The thing is that Chelsea are pretty much the only ones who are going to spend this kind of money within the top 6 in England. As for Manchester United, well, they could actually afford him, but it looks like their summer target is going to be Paolo Bala, especially if Romelu Lukaku ends up leaving Old Trafford, which doesn't seem likely to happen at the moment either. Aside from this, Liverpool, Arsenal and Tottenham have a bit of money, but they definitely don't have enough to pay the price tag and then the wages on top. And as for Manchester City, well, they're not really into signing big egos who could potentially damage the morale of the dressing room. We saw this last January when Alexis Sanchez was supposed to be moving to Manchester City, only for Pep Guardiola to turn him down because of the ludicrous wages that he was demanding. All in all, that's worked out as a pretty smart move for Pep Guardiola, but I could definitely see Chelsea taking a gamble on Icardi. However, there is one other team that could potentially afford Icardi. That's because if Manchester United do get rid of Lukaku, they're interested in signing Bala. And if they sign Bala for around 120 million, Juventus will have 120 million and an attacking spot to fill. So they are obviously our third team on this list. As this conveniently brings me on to my next team, which is Juventus, I'll also throw in a mention for Napoli, who have been linked with the striker in the last few days. To be honest, I just can't see it happening. There is no way that Napoli, whose current record transfer stands at 35 million that they paid for Gonzalo Higuain to Real Madrid, are going to suddenly triple that, pull 100 million out of nowhere and be able to bring in Icardi. Inter Milan are currently on the road to fighting with Napoli for the second or third spot in Serie A behind Juventus. Okay, there's a big gap between them, but they are kind of direct rivals, and I can't really see Inter Milan being too happy if they sell Icardi to Napoli. But let's head back to Juventus, and actually they wanted to bring Icardi in last summer as part of a swap deal for Gonzalo Higuain. Basically, this would see Higuain go the other way, but as we know, things didn't quite work out like that. Higuain ended up going to AC Milan, not doing so well there, and then ended up at Chelsea, meaning that Icardi stayed at Inter Milan. But my question is, if Icardi was to go into Juventus, where would he play? We've already discussed that he's an out-and-out goal scorer, but that's exactly what Cristiano Ronaldo does for Juventus. And also, as we've mentioned before, Ronaldo likes to keep himself fit and healthy, so he definitely is going to be on the decline within the next few years. And there is no way that Icardi's starting ahead of quite possibly the biggest footballer in the world, both marketability-wise and on the pitch. With that said as well, Icardi is unlikely to come in and sit on the bench and wait for CR7's decline within the next few years, because by then Icardi will probably be into his 30s himself. So could he potentially replace Paulo Dybala? I don't think so. They are two different players. Paulo Dybala is able to allow Cristiano to get on with the goal scoring because he can sit deeper. He's got a great eye for a pass, fantastic vision, technique and creativity, and he suits that number 10 role. In front of goal, we've seen that Dybala's figures have dropped massively. This season in Serie A, he's only got 4 goals compared to the 20-odd that he scored last season. This is obviously a direct result of Ronaldo having more of the ball and taking more of the shots. So can you really see Icardi dropping deeper and giving up everything that he does, which is basically score goals? I just can't see it happening. The only way that this may work is if Dybala leaves and Icardi then comes into the team, then Juventus will play with 2 men up front. Having looked at their previous tactics under Max Allegri and other managers, Juventus just do not do that. So can you imagine having 2 poachers up front who are just waiting for the ball while the other 8 outfield players do all the defensive work? I can't imagine too many managers that are going to put up with that kind of crap. Definitely not someone who's in charge of Juventus, one of Europe's biggest clubs. I can't think of a manager who would as well, even if Max Allegri was going to leave. So there you have it, all the information on Mauro Icardi and his current goings on at Inter and what he's going to potentially bring to a new club. But what do you guys think? Will he be heading to Real Madrid, Chelsea, or even to Juventus? Let me know in the comment section down below all of your thoughts and where you think he could potentially end up if he does leave. You never know, he might stay at Inter Milan, brush things under the carpet, and everything will be fine by next season. I can't really see that happening. Of course, you can also smash the like button whilst you're down there and click here to check out all of the other videos that we've got going on Onefootball. But until next time, I will see you guys later.